I was
in
trying to
Teams.
save you some bandwidth.
Save me some bandwidth. I should have plenty of bandwidth.
You're not on one of them fancy fiber connections.
No, well, if you would tell them fancy fiber connection people, otherwise known as AT&T, to actually do the work they said they were going to do like last, I don't know, 6 months ago or so. They said, we're going to start work in your neighborhood and bring you fancy gigabit fiber, and maybe it'll even be sooner. It has not been sooner. I am now a long number of months past what they said, and no fiber. But in other news, it does. So I don't know that this increases my bandwidth, but it, I think, helps balance it out. We're going to talk about random topics today, Scott. I've got all kinds of randomness along with your randomness. I have the Unified Dream Machine Pro for my primary router, and I do have redundant internet. So I have Comcast and AT&T both coming in. But one thing they added in a recent update to the UDM Pro was to use load balancing for my internet connections. So instead of routing some people out of one connection and other people out of one, which sort of worked and then a failover, I have now set it up to load balance my internet, and they have a slider. So I can say like 80% goes over Xfinity and 20% for AT&T, because my AT&T is way slower than Xfinity. And so far it seems to be working okay, and hopefully it'll help me not go over my limits, because sometimes I still went over limits because my traffic would not be equally distributed between myself and my family.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have that dual WAN capability, but it does sound interesting. The whole load balancing and failover capability within there.
Yeah, I had not done it for a while, and then at one point in time, I was doing a conference or a presentation or a webinar or something, and my internet went out like 3 minutes before the webinar was supposed to start. I ended up tethering. I think I tethered to my phone, and it came back at one point in time, but I was like, you know what? When I'm out for 3 hours or 4 hours, and for me too, being hourly consulting, more or less, if I'm down for that long, like, it pays for itself if I can work an extra 3 or 4 hours because I'm not down.
I can see all of that. So I am waiting for, so I've been eyeing the Unified Dream routers. They're the little, the UDRs. They're the little cylindrical ones, little white cylinders.
Like the next version of that, because they have the UDM that's a cylinder, but then they added the UDR that's like the UDM plus other stuff, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's kind of like the Unify stack that can run basically 2 apps. So it can't do everything like the rack mounted Dream machines can. So you could run, say, like network and security, but you couldn't run network, security, and pick your third one. Network, security, and camera. You couldn't do all those at once. So they apparently, I was looking on B&H the other day because they've been out of stock for a long time, and I'm really not happy with my current mesh Wi-Fi at home with these crap TP-Link Deco, whatever they are things. So I was looking on BH Photo, and their thing says, oh, there's a new model coming in July 2023. So now I'm like, well, the old one's been out of stock. The old one, that is the new one for like the last year and a half, whatever it is, because of COVID, supply chain, all those things. I should just wait until the new one comes in July and then go ahead and upgrade then.
Yeah, I thought I had... So now I need to go look, because I have one that's on I have an alert for it to come back in stock as well, because I actually want to get one of these and get one for my in-laws and put it at my in-laws, because they ask me every once in a while, like, their internet's not working, and same thing as you, like, they've tried different mesh ones, and then they're like, why doesn't this work? And like, you know what? If I just got them the whole Unify stuff, one, I'm familiar with it. And two, I could remotely access it and help troubleshoot them a little bit easier than whatever random mesh one they are trying at any given time.
So I think the UDR is a good option because it's $200 US for the base unit, and then it's got PoE, so you can totally throw it out to like a Nano or a Light AP and just kind of be done with it. And because it has Wi-Fi itself, it is an access point as well. I think the only limitation, which probably isn't really a limitation for most people, is that it only runs 2 of the applications in the Unify stack. So like I said, for me, I would run like, network and maybe pick up some cameras and do protect, but I couldn't do talk or access or anything like that. So you kind of have to pick and choose and see how that's all gonna manifest and come together for you. But shouldn't be. Most people don't need talk. Most people don't need access. Some people might want, like UID, like the whole Unify identity stack, all that kind of stuff. So you gotta pick and choose. I think everybody wants network. So you say, okay, great. What's network? I need network, protect, and then you're kind of off the rails.
Network and protect. Yeah. Network and protect are the 2 I use because I use network. I've thought about setting up some more cameras around the house. Really, right now with protect, I'm just using the doorbell. I'm using their Unify doorbell, which I actually like that too, way better than like the Google or the Ring or any of those. One, because it's all local. Like all the storage is here locally. If my internet goes out, as long as my wireless network is up, my doorbell's recording, grabbing video, all of that. And again, it does tend to be a little bit more the prosumer enterprise type quality. So it just seems to work better in general. But yeah, this is the one I have, the Unified Dream Machine AX3000 router. I have that on my list too for once it comes. And the nice thing, my in-laws, it's more of a sprawling brick. They have some brick and it's a ranch, so they have trouble with the whole getting it everywhere. So I'm like, I can pick up a couple of these. They have some wireless extenders that literally you just like plug them into an outlet. They're big. They're maybe like 6 inches tall and 4 inches wide, but super simple to just find an outlet that you don't ever use that's hidden behind a TV stand somewhere, pop it on the outlet and extend your wireless, set up that mesh. And I just got one of those and trying it, and it's been pretty good for me.
Yeah. So the AX3000 is the new one that's coming in July ish. Yes. But I think they've had so many problems making these things, it'll probably be delayed again anyway. Like for your parents, if they don't need Wi-Fi 6, they don't need 3 terabits of throughput, all those things, like you're better off just spending $20 less and getting the one that's been in market for 2 years already, year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is, and just going and running that way. So they do come in stock on the Unify site, and if you put an alert on the Unify site for just the regular UDR that's out in market today, you should be just fine. It's basically the same capabilities, other than and the same limitations are in the AX3000 as far as I've seen when it comes to like number of apps it runs, all those kinds of things. The big difference is the wireless band capabilities and the throughput that brings in the AX3000 for an extra $20.
Got it. Yeah, I might have to keep an eye out for that one to come in stock. So, you know what else is coming, Scott, that I kind of want to get, but I'm not going to back. I'm going to have to wait till it actually comes out. Have you seen this new keyboard, the Flux keyboard?
You sent me a link to this one. It is a weird one. Hard to describe in audio, but it's basically an OLED panel, but with raised keys overlaid on top of it. But then the individual keys themselves also have kind of LED or OLED style like chiclet keys on top of them. This falls into one of those things. It's like, oh, that's really weird and probably not for me.
See, I don't know. I think I could get on board with this one. And I don't think, so I looked at it, I don't think the keys actually have any OLED on them, because you can actually swap out that top key. I think it's just a clear key. And when you look at this and you see the different icons changing and some of that, I think it's that screen on the background changing is how I interpreted it, that it's just that shining through the clear keys. But because it's all OLED shining through the clear keys, they're saying that with different apps, you can
it's an HD IPS display. That's going to be a weird one sitting down underneath. You're not going to get crispy blacks on that.
Yeah, so if you're editing video or doing stuff like that, you can actually, like most of these video editings, they have keyboard shortcuts. Some of them you can go buy special keyboards for. Some of them you can buy like keyboard covers that have the icons on it. This, you just change what the OLED screen behind the keyboard displays. So you could, in theory, adapt it to any app. They have all kinds of visions for how this would work. Being able to like add dials and stuff at the top or other buttons along the top of it. I will say it seems ambitious. Like the processor is built right into the keyboard to power this screen that sits behind the keyboard. So it just works over USB-C or USB type A connections. And then all the processing and everything it does is on the keyboard. And even customizations to it are stored on the keyboard. And I saw in one comment, somebody asked, like, can you put movies on it? And they said this keyboard has 8 gigs of storage on it. So in theory, you could put a couple movies on it and have like a full feature-length movie playing on your keyboard behind your keys while you're typing.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing device. It's in Kickstarter right now. If you go sign up for it or back it, you're not going to see your keyboard until sometime in January of 2024, if everything stays on schedule. And you only save like $70. I'll wait to see if this actually comes to fruition. And then
so it is also a $400 US keyboard. So the company is out of Australia, so it's 570 AU, which is about 370, 380 today in USD. It's like buying a little mini computer.
It really is. But someone sent this to me and I was like, I kind of want one. More because it's a gadget, customizable icons on my keys, like when I'm editing stuff in DaVinci Resolve, maybe. It's my gadget syndrome, Scott, that just wants to buy it for a new gadget.
You just need a new key. You're too lazy to hit like the troll everybody key on your Stream Deck, so you just want it to be closer on your keyboard now. We know what it is.
Yep, exactly. Oh, so those are my random things for today. So should we keep going with randomness or should we talk about cloud news? You had some randomness you wanted to talk about too. There's always randomness to talk about. Why don't we do a little bit of cloud news? So did you see that they announced Windows 365 Cloud PC for Frontline licenses and Frontline workers? I saw the headline. I have not looked at that article at all yet.
Well, all right. Well, I'll kind of walk you through it a little bit because I think it's kind of interesting, and there's capabilities in there where you're like, oh yeah, I might actually want that, like not for my frontline workers so much, but for other users in my environment as well. So you can now, you have to go sign up in preview, I guess is the way it's working for now. But if you have frontline workers who could leverage Cloud PC, you can allocate them this license, and then you can configure them configure a frontline Cloud PC. And frontline Cloud PCs are just like any other Cloud PC that you go ahead and provision and spin up in the fabric, with a couple of key differences. So they're powered down. They're not always powered on all the time. So they kind of like power on demand, when a new user logs into them. They also have capabilities like when a user disconnects, you can configure rules around that so that you make sure that the user gets signed out so that they release their license back, and then that frontline PC comes back into the pool and it's available for the next user on startup. So it's kind of a cool way to have people come in and out of PC capabilities that they need. Maybe it's like Excel, Word, whatever that happens to be, and be able to do that kind of shift worker based thing or contractor based thing with, I guess, how would marketing frame it, like the full Windows experience, and bring that all to them. So I think that's really cool. Like if you have, users on your help desk who are contractors or things like that, or you just have shift workers who need those capabilities, it's kind of a little bit of a no-brainer, especially if all you want to do is have like a thin client hanging out and you don't want to do like full PC provisioning anymore, and have that stuff available to you.
Yeah, and that is, I like the whole power off, make it available, because right now with Windows 365 Enterprise, that's one differentiator I tell people. So when I go talk to people about Azure VDI versus Windows 365 Cloud PC, it's very much VDI. You can do that. You have a pool that people log into, log out of. They can have shared resources, all of that. Windows 365 Cloud PC from the enterprise side of things right now is a one-to-one relationship between a user and a PC. There's not any ability to pool Windows 365 Cloud PCs in that enterprise SKU that I'm aware of.
It's not there. So it is kind of a, like you said, it's a clear differentiator between the two of them, and certainly a nicety. So, it is, it's something to take a look at.
Yeah, for sure. And to your point about the thin client, I also see in this article that Windows 365 is now available with LG's new 2023 TVs. So there's apparently a home office card on these LG smart TVs that now allow you to log into Windows 365 right on a smart TV, and pair a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse then with your TV to do the whole Windows 365 cloud thing. Or Windows 365 Cloud PC right on a smart TV. So, So what I need to do now is I just need to go replace my Samsung TV in the living room with an LG TV in the living room. And now I just have a cloud PC right there in my living room.
If you, it's a path that you could go down if you so chose to. Not sure it's worth swapping out all the TVs in your house just yet, but maybe in a couple of years.
Remember, Scott, I like gadgets. This is just another excuse for a new gadget.
This is actually helping you feed into it, huh?
Exactly. I actually have something else that I want instead. Yeah. I have a different TV, a different Samsung TV I have my eye on.
All right. So back to Cloud PC real quick. There's a couple other things in here as well. So Frontline, Windows 365 Frontline also has, in addition to auto sign out, it has auto lock screen, which is fun, like good. Hey, you can configure that for your users. It also has auto reset, where you can effectively wipe all the data from the Cloud PC at the end of a shift. So you can have the PC consistently resetting its state for every new user that logs into it, which I think is kind of cool as well in like min environments where you don't really need a bunch. Again, I'll go back to like the help desk situation, right? Maybe you have like a help desk support agent who's working tickets out of Jira. Maybe they're downloading files during their session, like CSV of a log that a customer uploaded, kind of things. And for compliance reasons, you can't have it hanging around. Great. You just do auto reset and that help desk engineer signs out and boom, the next one comes in. They don't get to see or have access to you. Like you don't have to worry about any of those things, which I think is kind of cool. And then surprisingly, for a Microsoft Windows 365 feature, they kind of they actually built a utilization report into it from the start, which is like, oh, like what a great idea. Like help us operationalize this within our business and spin it up. TBD if that report's actually any good, but it's nice to see it called out like in the official marketing materials that like, hey, they're going down this path and they're thinking about it. Like it's not only a set of features that are potentially helpful to users who are going to be under that Frontline license, but also admins as well, like kind of like giving everybody the warm fuzzies. You know, we were talking about Loop a couple weeks ago and lack of compliance there and some of the other things that come along with it. Like this is all good stuff for Windows 365 Frontline in the way that it's kind of at least framed up right now.
Yeah, I wonder if even, you got me thinking about all kinds of things with auto reset. Like you talked about help desk, or they mentioned healthcare workers, but I also wonder, like, you think about schools or libraries where you have students logging in or a public computer setting out in a computer lab where people are coming in. And I mean, I did it before when I was in college. You log in and like people have left files on the computer or different things here. Having that ability to auto reset it and essentially wipe out the entire computer after anybody's session. There's a lot of benefits to being able to do that in some of these scenarios where maybe it's a public or a more public environment or that shared, essentially a shared PC use case.
Yeah, I could be a good one. I think it's nice.
Gone every time.
It's nice just to have it as an option and not have to, again, from that admin lens, like not have to worry about it and script it out or kind of even think about how you have to clean those things up. So it actually like aligns nicely to the whole Frontline license mindset of, you know, if your users need to persist data, have them get it over into things like OneDrive for Business or into SharePoint where it can be shared out and pushed across the stack. And all those good kinds of things. So I thought that was a really like good one to see get launched. So it's out in preview today. There's a form that you have to go fill out to get accepted into it. But if it's something that sounds interesting, you know, folks should go kick the tires on it.
Definitely. You know, another one, since we're talking about admin type stuff and managing PCs, there is another nice feature that hit preview that you kind of saw the writing on the walls, it was coming, is the ability to import custom ADMX and ADML administrative templates into Endpoint Manager within essentially Intune, Office 365, Microsoft 365. So for a while now, they have had some custom settings in there. They've had some of the ADMX templates that you could use. So there was a lot of controls there. But now, again, public preview. Well, the date on this is old. Is the date on the article that old that it popped up in my feed and I just looked at the date and it says August 17 of 2022 in my feed. Maybe it's just me. But being able to import
either way, I missed
ones,
it.
Yeah, I did too. I want to go look at this, learn. Oh, this was last updated February 22, 2023. I don't know why. We'll blame RSS feeds. This does look to be new. This is still public preview. I just saw a squirrel. But it works with the Endpoint Manager, so you can do stuff for Google Chrome. I know Google Chrome, they provide like ADMX templates for managing their browser, so you can do some of that. It works Windows 10, Windows 11. But one of those, if you are looking to kind of get away from Active Directory and go to the pure Azure Active Directory route for all your endpoint management, managing all your devices, I know this is one that a lot of people have been waiting for. A lot of customers that I've worked with that are still running hybrid mode, either they need to keep like a domain controller on-prem for servers and a whole bunch of other applications. But I have seen a few where the only reason they're still keeping DCs around is for group policies. And I get this isn't 100% group policy. It's not at quite that level, but it is getting closer and closer to that point where you can start managing all of those different settings, policies, configurations right from Azure AD and get a little bit closer to not needing to keep that DC around anymore.
Yep. All depends on what you need, right? And how that looks for you and composes. So it's kind of interesting. Like a super slick experience. Just go into Intune. You've got an import button that sits there, and you can go ahead and bring data in and kind of play with it as needed. It looks like there's some limitations. So only US English ADML files are supported. So if you have multilingual ADML, you could have some issues there. Like, don't try this out if you're in France or Germany, but if you're in the US, it's fine. Or if your users in those geos are set up the right way. They are also pretty, I think, kind of tactical in the examples that they show of like ADMX templates that you can bring in. Like they call out a whole bunch of common client apps and then they just kind of leave it there. Like I think that's a little bit of like a wink, wink, hint, hint kind of thing. Like that this isn't going to do everything you want it to do, but it could be good in these situations. Like you mentioned Chrome, maybe Firefox, Zoom, WebEx, Adobe Reader for PDFs, things like that. They could all could work for you, but you'd have to try it out and play with it and see.
Your mileage will vary. They also have some limits on how many. So it also says only a maximum of 10 ADMX files can be uploaded. Each file must be 1 megabyte or smaller. And then for each ADMX file, you can only have 1 ADML file that you upload. And you mentioned the English US for ADML, but it looks like ADMX is more because each ADMX file supports 1 language. So they seem to imply that maybe ADMX supports additional languages and ADML only supports in US right now. It's a little vague there, but again, it's preview. I'm anticipating some of that will change once it becomes generally available, but there are some of those limitations there, like you mentioned, and some very specific apps they call out in that documentation.
Yeah. Also, like, big P on the preview there. Don't take a dependency on it for production things.
Yeah, this is one because of everything you can do with ADMX and ADML. I would be very cautious in how far I would take this while it's still in preview. Last thing you want to do is brick a whole bunch of users' machines or completely break the functionality that they have.
I mean, you can always give it a shot, right? Like, what's the worst that happens? You just take down your business for a little while.
Big deal. Yeah. No, do it in preview. So should we talk about the other preview feature, Scott? The other public preview that came out?
Yeah, let's do one more preview.
One more preview? Avatars for Microsoft Teams.
Avatars.
Hi, Microsoft. Yes.
Have you tried your Teams avatar yet?
Once. And that was it. I don't know, Scott. I have very mixed feelings on avatars. And I think maybe we even talked about this when we were talking about Copilot coming out, and that I wish development resources would go into something else. I see where people can like avatars. So I get it. Not everybody has an office like you do, or like I do, or other people where you have a nice background. There are a lot of people that are sitting in their kitchen. They're sitting in let's face it, over the last 3 years, I've talked to people that like sit in closets, that sit in hallways, that they're finding anywhere in their house they can just sit to work. And maybe they don't like the background blur. I also get some people are very self-conscious about what they look like on camera, about how ready they are to be on camera. I see avatars being a fit for that, where now you can at least put a face in there, have an avatar that maybe looks sort of like you. I'm horrible at making my avatars look like me. But having some type of face that you can put up, have video, have some reactions in the video without you necessarily being on camera or showing your background or having to do virtual backgrounds or blurring your background. I can see where some people like avatars from that perspective. And I guess from my perspective of talking to people, I would prefer talking to an avatar than just a box with 2 initials in it. All that being said, they still tend to feel a little, gimmicky for me. The reactions, like you push reaction buttons now to get reactions. So even though someone gives you a reaction in an avatar, it's not your true reaction. It's the button you hit to react. They look cartoony. I still prefer a real person's face at the end of the day. I don't care what your background looks like. I don't care what you look like. I'm not going to judge your background. I'm not going to judge your appearance on camera. I just prefer to see a real person on camera when I'm on a virtual meeting.
Yeah, I'm with you on all of that. Like, camera off or camera on is just a binary thing, and I don't fault anybody for not going camera on. Like, I basically have a really expensive fancy webcam because I use this camera for other things, but I still don't turn it on all the time. Like, there's totally times where kids are behind me, dogs are behind me, like whatever's happening, it's like I'm just not going to turn it on and make people put up with that. Or frankly, I don't want to turn all the lights on. I've got like can lights above me. I've got key lights over here. There's just all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to turn all that on just for a meeting and have a big light shining in my face the entire time that I'm doing all this. So, yeah, I'm with you. Avatars are weird. I think they're super weird in VR environments, let alone in kind of the current state. And, they're even weirder to me, like for the couple times I've seen them use, like people are still using their virtual backgrounds with them. So I'm used to seeing lots of people, like you said, like lots of us are still working from home. We don't have dedicated offices, or you just want to like hide the mess. So like lots of people use virtual backgrounds in those meetings. And, when you do that and all of a sudden you go from like being used to seeing a person there and now it's an avatar, it's a little even more of like a cognitive jump to make it all work. But I like the idea of like being able to like configure something that you think represents you. Like you mentioned, you can't ever really make avatars look like you. That kind of like sucks to have to feel that way. But for people who can configure an avatar where they think it either looks like them or it looks like a version of them that they would like to be, like I think that's all well and good and really awesome. I think it'd be kind of cool if you could maybe as like a meeting administrator or something like that say like, hey, if like we're gonna have avatars in the meeting, everybody's avatars or everybody's not avatars kind of thing. It's a little bit weird to have the mix and match, but at the end of the day, like that's only weird to me. So I guess everybody can do themselves. Like you do you at the end of the day, and I'm like you. I'm not going to complain about it. Like camera on, camera off, avatar on, avatar off, virtual background, like whatever it is, like, I totally get it. There's there's a ton of other things to worry about in the world besides avatars. But they are a capability. The other thing that's interesting about avatars is it's just more like GPU constraints on top of the Teams client. So I don't know. I would be willing to bet you're a little bit like me in that you interact with customers from kind of multiple ecosystems. So you probably play around in Slack and WebEx and Zoom and Google Meet and kind of all the other things that are out there. Teams continues to drag any computer I have to its knees, regardless of the setup for it. Mac, Windows, whatever it is. Like you and I are sitting here right now, like we're both on, kind of M1 Pro, whatever Macs that are pretty beefy. As soon as I start this meeting up every week, it's like, whoop, yep, there goes some RAM usage just as like GPU and other things kicks in. So it's more overhead on PCs as well, which I don't know that I'm a fan of in general with the Teams client, just being where the Teams client is at in general, even with the new preview version. So, TBD to see how that bakes out over time as well.
Yeah, it would be interesting to turn avatars on. I just looked on my Mac right now. My Microsoft Teams helper renderer is using 225.9% of my CPU. On a Mac, how anything can use more than 100%, I still don't quite understand. But then, like, my next highest ones are, ironically, other Microsoft ones. It's Windows Server or Windows Server. That's not Microsoft. Windows Server is managing all my layout on my monitors. But then my third highest one is actually OneDrive, and then Edge is like the fifth one down.
Yeah, I can't run OneDrive on my Mac anymore. It just doesn't start. So
it just broke.
Can't solve it.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, because it is definitely going to be more resource intensive to do avatars, I think, than stream video. You're rendering your avatars, but you're also not necessarily processing all that video. So it would be interesting to do a comparison there on resource utilization on avatars versus normal video.
Well, I think you're still processing the video because the avatar is watching your video. That's the other part of it is like as you're moving and speaking, it's quite the trip. Like if nobody's tried it, I think you should at least try it so you understand the creation experience, which is, pretty expansive. Like you can go down this path of getting like super configurable with it, but then also just the experience of avatars in meetings, if anything, maybe so it's not jarring for you the first time you see it.
Yeah, I will say that I was very impressed when I went in to create avatars on the level of customizability that they did build into creating avatars. There are a lot of options in there when you go create an avatar. So like you, I would absolutely go give it a shot once and see how it works. Sorry, I had to move it. I feel like there was something else I was going to say, and I forgot what I was going to say. Avatars. Oh, I think end of the day, again, I don't have a problem with them, but it doesn't feel like in an enterprise solution, there's other things I would have preferred to see Microsoft do when it comes to enterprise applications that really enhance my work or help me be more productive. Again, I compared this to like Copilot, and I feel like Copilot hands down is going to be way more productive, something I'd use much more regularly than something like avatars, and enhance my work life, not just be, Again, I don't want to say it's gimmicky, but it feels more gimmicky.
Who knows? Someday we'll all see the additional pricing for Copilot, which I have to imagine is coming, right? It's got to cost something extra. That's going to be the one where you go like, ooh, maybe I really don't need that for everybody, kind of thing. Yeah. So
who knows?
We shall see. But yeah, good chat as always, and
absolutely.
We'll get to chat again next week. Same bad time, same bad channel.
Same bad time, same bad channel. We're doing a stream, but that'll be before anybody hears this, so that's irrelevant. But enjoy your weekend.
That's why I didn't mention it, but thanks for bringing it up.
Hey, anytime. If you want to see the next one, go sign up for membership, and you can see not the one we'll do in like 4 days, but the one we'll do in like 18 days or something like that.
All right. Perfect.
So
thanks,
enjoy your weekend. Yep. Thanks, Scott.